How I got over. How I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over. UNC's Black Student Movement Gospel Choir had the Memorial Hall rocking. Riding on the spirit of Mahalia and Aretha, they called us to spiritually celebrate Black power, not a white savior. Black students from all over the state and the country waved, rocked, clapped, and shouted. Their Black student organization dwarfed ours back at Sanford. Theirs was BSM. The M for movement had replaced our U for union. They had a budget and an office that came from student fees. In the foyer, Black medical students passed out pamphlets and educated us about a strange disease called sickle cell. Further inside, some members of the Winston-Salem Black Panther Party sold newspapers. I was overjoyed. I wasn't even supposed to be there. Larry and Ron had graduated. I still had one more year at Sanford, but agreed to pack their stuff in my 1964 Pontiac Star Chief and take them to Black freshman pre-orientation at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I stuck around for a few days pretending to be an incoming freshman myself. Anticipating questions about my eventual departure, Ron came up with this rich story about how I'd been accepted at multiple schools and used the Black pre-orientation to see which I would attend. It worked, and I had a ball. The campus was vast, co-ed dormitories, huge academic department buildings. Because we were early to campus, Black students got to connect and learn the campus days before the deluge of 19,000, mostly white students, converged and covered the flora and the fauna. The 19-minute drive back home took forever. My best friends were in their new home, making their future. I had another year at Sanford. My uncle's expression said it perfectly. I felt so low I could walk under the refrigerator without bumping my head. I tried to console myself by telling myself, you just had to make it through this year to join them. My mind went backward. Ron was the one who'd pulled me into the Sanford cafeteria to hear Benny Renwick, a Black man on a mission to recruit Black students to UNC. Before then, the future was fuzzy, and when I thought about college, it was Fayetteville State University or North Carolina Central University. But it was more of a pipe dream than a plan. Neither of my parents had completed high school, and I only knew of a distant uncle, Uncle Will, who had attended college. My parents knew nothing of college visits, admissions, financial aid. Joining the military was the accelerated path to home ownership and success in this city. My father, who had served in the Korean War, created Getty Salvage to give me another path. He didn't care about me going to college. And it didn't make sense to him because I was already making money, good money. He was right. I was making good money with the family business and a nightclub photography business he'd helped me launch. Before I had a license, I'd purchased a 1966 Chevy Sport with a Holley 4-barrel carburetor with dual gas intakes and 4 in the flow. That car could fly. I helped to support my mother with money. Sometimes for my younger sisters, I was Santa Claus. I expanded the photography beyond the Savoy Supper Club to include contracts with Shaft's Den and the Opindo Lounge. Dad asked, son, you're leaving money on the table. For what? I couldn't answer his for what. This seed had been growing. It was time for me to leave home. Sitting at the same kitchen table that we had moved to make way for those anvils and barrels and red gold, Larry helped me complete the college application and financial aid application. Ask anybody. We were joined at the hip. They, Ron and Larry, were my ace boon coons. Today, you might call them my road dogs or my ride or die partners. Now, driving away from them, what was I to do for this year at Terry Sanford? I'd reach for my Donny Hathaway 8-track cartridge. Donny never let me down. The words, "Little ghetto boy, you already know how rough life can be, 'cause you've seen so much pain and misery. Little ghetto boy, when you become a man, you can make things change. Hey, hey, if you just take a stand. You've got to believe in yourself and all you do. You got to fight to make it better. You'll see others will start believing too." Driving back to Fayetteville, I noticed on the seat the green and red pamphlet and remembered the soon-to-be Dr. MacArthur Newell talking passionately about how we need to learn about and do something about this blood disease that rarely affects whites but occurs in 1 out of 365 African Americans. I decided on that drive to do something to get this information out to the community and to get us the needed help. This was perfect. Another discovery, another project, another movement. This time, the discovery wasn't about our greatness. It was about an affliction. Like those black medical students, I got the opportunity, know the responsibility to help our people. Back at Sanford, I sought out my rock, Miss McLean. I explained what I had learned and my vision. She believed there was always a step to get us where we wanted to go. The first step, she said, was to talk to the director of the health department. I didn't even know what a health department was. I followed her direction and got an audience with the director. The white director seemed open, but erected a high bar for this senior from a working-class family. He required me to get a medical doctor and representatives from various black communities involved. I didn't know any doctors. I didn't grow up with regular doctor visits. Emergency rooms, yes. But if it weren't an asthma attack, a broken bone, gunshot, or a deep cut, Grandma Caldonia's castor oil or Grandma Hetty's pine top tea would do the trick. Fayetteville State provided a wonderful meeting ground. Flyers went up. I got busy telling other students, families, and everyone about sickle cell disease and exhorted them to join me in organizing our community and the health department to address it. My chest stuck way out when, unexpectedly, my mother, my father, and other family members got involved. Now I only needed the doctor. Dr. Herbert Vick was an MD and longtime activist. Years before, he, Marion Jones, and black military servicemen and students were protesting so that Governor Terry Sanford called in 40 additional highway patrolmen to contain Fayetteville. Yes, the school I was forced to attend bore the name of that governor. When later asked about it, Dr. Vick said it was my responsibility. If I went to school and got an education, I should fight for the rest of them to be able to do the same. I didn't know Dr. Vick's reputation and his protesting history. I did know that he was one of Fayetteville's larger-than-life figures. I called. He asked that I come to his home the following evening. In those days, the economic gap between Dean Street and where I lived and Seabrook, where Dr. Vick lived, seemed like an ocean. I couldn't believe how frightened I was to approach him. I was shaking as I walked down his driveway toward his door. When I made it there, he invited me in, and he also agreed to support the effort. During a lull at one of the regular sickle cell meetings, I realized that I'd done it. I'd created an organization of high school students, college students from Fayetteville State University, Miss McLean, my family, black community members from different income sectors, and public health representatives. I'd also busied myself for the entire school year. It was nearing time for me to go. The Cumberland County Operation Sickle Cell, as it came to be called, was growing. A fundraiser with Smokin' Joe Frazier, the heavyweight champion, was in the works. I asked fellow student Andromeda Monroe to hold it down for me, given its popularity and my absence. It was just a matter of time before adults took the reins. I'd given it a vision, a strong foundation, plus Miss McLean was there. I felt conflicted, but I had to let it do what it would do. My father's query was compounded. Walking away from money on the table, plus a solid foundation for community respect and leadership. Why are you going? Still, I couldn't answer as deeply as he required. One thing was sure. My future was calling, and calling fast. Like in 2 weeks. Been cleared to start class as a legitimate freshman at UNC, starting with summer courses before the official fall start. Yikes. My last class at Sanford was on a Friday. On Monday, I would start classes at UNC. I will miss commencement practice and will have to return home to attend my own graduation ceremony. John T. Sasser, remember him? The principal at Sanford couldn't resist taking one last swipe. He made it known that since I'd missed the graduation practices, I wouldn't be allowed to participate in commencement exercises, although I would get my diploma. He must have been out of the building that day. A month earlier, my mother responded to a trusted rumor that I might not be allowed to graduate. She made appointments with each of my teachers. She entered the building, stopped by the office, proceeded to her appointments. I was clueless on the other side of the building when a student ran up to me. Do you know your mother is here? She just left talking to Miss Boyd. I just smiled and nodded my head with pride. I'll never know what Mom said, but rumor has it that she asked to see their grades for me. When satisfied, she'd look them dead in the eye, asking, is there anything from your class that will keep my son from passing? I didn't see her the whole time she was at school. I heard the rumblings and felt the tremor in the force. Sasser was absent that day, but his comment about not letting me march during commencement to receive the degree earned him a visit. On the phone with me, Mom would say, Lord knows, if you were white, they would roll out the red carpet when you stepped to get your Sanford diploma. Sanford was in the office this time. When my name was called at commencement, you better believe I was stepping with swag and pumping the Black Power fist. And I could swear that my mother's voice was the loudest.